Republicans have discovered a new way to ensure that Americans continue getting poisoned with lead that seeps into their water. I don't understand why this would even be an agenda item, but actually, no, I do. Okay, so let's get to the details. So they are essentially tossing mandates that would require cities to replace lead pipes. Now, these lead pipes end up getting eroded, and then that erosion seeps into drinking water. It's making people sick. And here's what you need to know. Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration are working to repeal former President Joe Biden's rule on lead pipe replacement. So the administration set a 13-year deadline for cities across the country to replace their lead pipes. And the goal of that Environmental Protection Agency rule was to lower the amount of lead that was seeping into our drinking water. So the rule is the strongest overhaul of lead in water standards in roughly 3 decades. Lead, a heavy metal used in pipes, paints, ammunition, and many other products, is a neurotoxin that can cause a range of disorders from behavioral problems to brain damage. Lead lowers IQ scores in children, stunts their development, and increases blood pressure in adults. So the EPA estimates that this stricter standard would yield much better, big benefits for the American people. It would prevent up to 900,000 infants from having low birth rate and avoid up to 1,500 premature deaths a year from heart disease. Lead is super, super toxic. Look, I get overregulation as it pertains to the environment. I think we have that issue in California, and it has prevented the construction of new housing, all sorts of issues. So I'm not like one of these people who denies that sometimes there's overreach when it comes to some environmental protections and regulations. This is not an example of that. The lead pipes is a huge problem in the country. And it's not like the Biden administration's EPA was like, hey, by next year, you guys need to replace your pipes. No, 13 years, that's a long runway. And Republicans are not only attempting to eliminate that standard, but they're also working to kill a recently implemented ban on something known as TCE. So TCE is a compound that is among the most toxic and is unfortunately common. It's a common water pollutant. If the GOP is successful, tens of millions of people would continue to have drinking water contaminated with this heavy metal. Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration plan to kill the lead pipe rule and the TCE ban by using the Congressional Review Act. So just a few details on that. The CRA, the Congressional Review Act, gives Congress and the incoming administration 60 legislative days to consider undoing any last-minute rules implemented by the previous administration. In this case, it would be Biden. I'm uncertain why this was a last-minute decision by the Biden administration. It should have been something that was implemented earlier in his administration, but it wasn't. Eric Olson, senior advisor to the NRDC Action Fund, stated that the Trump administration is saying, let them drink lead. It's a bad look to support lead poisoning children, not the best foot forward for the new Congress.
Yeah.
Cenk.
Yeah, this is why I'm obsessed with money in politics, because there's no reason to do this other than donor money. None, zero, zero. So you say, well, okay, Cenk, I mean, like the TCE being a toxic heavy metal in our water doesn't sound too good. And lead is so toxic, as Anna explained, it lowers IQ scores of the children that drink the water that has the lead in it. And by the way, it also leads to crime. It makes human beings more likely to be violent. It's an epic disaster. I've read excellent studies on why the crime increase in the 70s and 80s was directly related to lead. So now, but you say, okay, I get it, it's super toxic, but maybe the American people don't know that, and they love the lead in the water, and so this is the politicians just serving their voters. And hey, there's a MAGA takeover, and they want to cut the government, blah, blah, blah. No. Lead replacement rules have a 90% approval rating, 90%. I mean, you know why? Because nobody wants their kids poisoned with lead or TCE. This is not a hard one. I assume the other 10% are in the lead industry, right? So why do this? There's only one reason. Donors, period. And you're not, see, they did so many crazy things. The USA, the takeover of the Treasury, we're gonna take over Greenland and Gaza and Panama, et cetera, that nobody's paying attention to this story. And they know that. So they're like, okay, goodies for all of our donors, goodies for all the industries. You wanna poison the kids? Perfect time. We're gonna take away all the restrictions, poison them away. Oh, you're gonna make an extra $5-10. Great. Make sure you kick back some to the mob boss, right? And in this case, it's not just Trump, it's all the Republican politicians. So they're all getting paid by these guys, and they're literally killing us here to get their goddamn campaign contributions. And it is not the only place they do it. Medicare can't negotiate drug prices, so people can't afford drugs that are life-saving, and then they die. Well, hey, to be fair, the drug companies gave a lot of money to Speaker Mike Johnson and to a lot of Democrats as well, and to Trump and to Biden. And so none of those get regulated. Now the prices we don't have control over, the poisons in the water. This is like late stage empire. This is totally unsustainable. And no one will notice this, no one will fight back, and it'll be an epic disaster. And the lead industry executives will be laughing all the way to the bank. Of course, I can guarantee you this, wherever they live, they've already replaced the pipes because they know how dangerous it is. Wherever you live, well, that's kind of your problem because all of our politicians are crooks. And I'll say, yeah, one last thing on this. This is an issue that Democrats could make a big deal out of because 90% approval rating and nobody wants their kids poisoned. And you ask, why did you let the lead back in the water? And I guarantee you find donors to Trump and to Republicans that'll make a very clear, direct line as to why they did this. What are the chances that Democratic leadership will figure out to focus on an incredibly popular issue like this and show the problems of deregulating everything, getting rid of government, getting rid of all regulations, and not protecting the American people? What do you think the chances are the Democrats are smart enough to figure that out?
I mean, look, the Democrats have spent more time defending the garbage programs that are part of USAID as opposed to focusing on the fact that Donald Trump has gutted the National Labor Relations Board, thus screwing over workers. They have been caught flat-footed, even though, I mean, Donald Trump won the election in November. He said very clearly what his priorities were when he was running his campaign. There's no reason why Democrats should be caught flat-footed. But here we are at this date, no strategy, no plan, an emphasis on protecting bureaucracy as opposed to fighting on behalf of the American people. That is what we're dealing with, Cenk.
Yeah.
So it puts anyone who is opposed to the actions of Republicans, American voters, in an impossible situation. Who do you root for? Which party is looking out for you? And right now, for people like us, it feels like no one is.
Yeah, there's a 0% chance they'll figure it out. I mean, they can't figure out the simplest things. Hey, fight for paid family leave. It pulls at over 84%. How much of a layup do you want? I don't know. There's nothing I could do. A fight for getting the lead out of the water. It pulls at over 90%. How stupid are you? And the Democratic leadership consistently answers infinitely stupid. Can't figure out the simplest political strategies. Meanwhile, the Republicans are like, oh, you want to poison the American people? Yeah, give me $5, I'm in. So we're screwed. Nobody's gonna fight this, and the lead's gonna go in the water, and it's gonna poison some of our kids. So you have that to look forward to.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.